Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to talk about stuff we all want. Stuff that should form the backbone of any new expansion or sequel, and stuff that we can reasonably guess at by looking at Blizzard's previous form from their other titles. Big meta changes like new units in StarCraft, as well as plot progression, new races and campaign story missions in WoW, new characters in Diablo, etc. The list goes on. This video is about fun and the joy of looking forward in Overwatch, because that's why we're really all here anyway. Now, I want to see as much interaction in the comments as possible. I'm going to do my best to include everything that I can think of, but if I do leave anything out, that's where you guys come in, so do let us know down below. Campaign. Right, so first on the list is some sort of single player campaign style content. This has been a long held dream for a lot of Overwatch players, and I really think it comes down to this. Fans really want the story to move forward from where it is. At the moment, Overwatch lore exists in this weird limbo land between the past, where events like Archives and Retribution take place, comics and cinematics that examine how a hero came to be who they are, like Maze, or Divas, which is very much present day, perhaps just before Winston's recall. We're collectively stuck in this moment just before a big storm. Doomfist has been planning his new war, Sombra has been manipulating Lady Volskaya in Russia, but nothing has actually happened yet. It's a build-up that's gone largely nowhere, and if there's one constant among the fan base, it's that this situation has to change. Some have floated the idea of an Overwatch movie, or an animated series on a streaming platform like Netflix that could function as the story progression we want, but I share the opinion that a campaign in the follow-up is what Blizzard might do. They also, it has to be said, have quite a lot of experience of doing just this. StarCraft and its many expansions told a complex narrative over the course of their releases, with new missions in each one that carried the story forwards, oblique with the help of some sweet 3D animations. In fact, most Blizzard game expansions do this in one way or another. As the games grow, so the player's investment in the characters is rewarded. World of Warcraft has continued its narrative in each expansion for over a decade. That is a format I can see working well in Overwatch. I think it's a given that there'll be some new heroes in any major new release, more on those later, but single player missions based on learning those new heroes and abilities could perform a similar function to their StarCraft counterparts. Let's see the start of a new Talon conflict, told through episodic single player PvE scenarios. One could be a Talon infiltration mission, the next, how Overwatch tries to respond. You could even give every hero a little mission of their own, each interwoven into a much larger narrative, just from where their perspective starts and stops. So by the end of the campaign, you've played every hero and an amazing story has been told. Games like Mortal Kombat and the Transformers War for Cybertron series work like this and are very popular. You never know, this is where Jeff's "we could potentially kill heroes off" comments come into play. If not every hero makes the cut to the new roster, which isn't that unusual in gaming, the story is where you could see what happens to them. To be honest, it's their own fault for creating this world and set of heroes that we all love so much. We just want to see what they do next. At some point there has to be a payoff. This kind of narrative content could fit that bill. Heroes. As I said, I think it goes without saying that any new Overwatch release could come with a batch of new heroes to play. But this brings with it some rather interesting dilemmas. Firstly, there's the issue of power creep, and if you don't know what that is, I'll just try and explain it to you as quickly as possible. Look back at the very start of Overwatch. Your support options were Zen, Lucio Mercy, and nominally Symmetra. Well, what was possible back then was limited by that utility that was available. Zen was a glass cannon with 150 HP, so everyone ran Lucio Mercy. The game was played a certain way because of the tools available. Now we have Ana, Moira, and Brig to add to that, so there's many more options, and they've had to be adjusted over time because with each new release, the power available has crept up slightly. The player base has more things that they can do. Another good example is what's had to be done to Torb in reaction to Brig's power. Armor being everywhere took over the game for a bit, so they've reworked Torb into this anti-armor DPS. Adjustments have to be made as new stuff makes its way into the game. If, say, 5 or 6 new heroes are added in one go with a new Overwatch release, this trend will continue, and they'll very likely have abilities that interact and counter each other, just like, say, the Medic and Lurkers from StarCraft Brood War did. It'll just be more of a direct power jump or step rather than slow creep. Plus, there will more than likely be more things added in that you might not at first glance think would fit in. Nobody saw Wrecking Ball coming, we certainly didn't. As the hero list grows, expect more heroes and utility that surprise you. A sequel or expansion is also where they can take the opportunity to adjust current heroes to fit this new layout. landscape. Maybe ults get tweaked or changed completely. I for one still wish that McCree could get time-limited dual wielding as an ult in replacement of Deadeye, and expansion is where they could do that, and not just to one hero at a time. In short, yes, expect new heroes and expect some of your favourites to return, but maybe not as you know them now. Burst Rifle Soldier, anyone? Yes please, Jeff. New ways to play. An expansion also gives Blizzard the freedom to experiment with how you play the game. Some ideas on our wish list are new queues like role or hero draft examples, maybe even a team/clan version, but also some much more developed replayable PvE experiences. I like the idea of competitive PvE, and there's a few examples I have to share with you. Back in the day, I used to love playing Tetris, but you know what I love more? Playing Tetris against a friend and wrecking them whenever I got the blocks for a fat 4-line clear. My cleared lines would be added to my friend screen at the bottom, pushing theirs closer to the top for a game over. Destiny 2 has a mode called Gambit, which is essentially a race to kill mobs and then bosses against another team to see who can clear them the quickest. But you can also mess with them by entering their side and eliminating the other team periodically. When you do that, their boss's health gets regenerated. That could work in Overwatch with a payload race mode, where both teams are trying to push a cart down opposite sides of a map, fighting bots and boss characters like, say, Retribution had. But at each checkpoint, one player could enter a sim teleporter onto your opponent's side and try to kill them. Each limb you got would push their cart back a bit or maybe spawn extra bosses, things like that. There'd also be a meta to it as well. You'd save that nanoblade until you got a telly up, then your Genji would wreak havoc on your opponent's side of the map until they were taken out. I think a lot of people would like a mode like this, and the hype last minute cart push wins would be a welcome change of pace from straight ranked play. A single life mode like a bomb plant/defusal mode could also be a fun experience. It might tend to lean towards a DPS meta, but perhaps the heroes are predetermined, like the official archives or retribution modes, and it's up to the team to decide who takes what role. In before give me Widow or I throw. Aside from that little snag, which grouping would obviously fix, it could be a lot of fun. More than anything, I just want Blizzard to really experiment with what are currently brawls. Here's a novel idea: have a permanent brawl that's story-based, something you can always play to unwind after a long day of comp. A horde mode where you defend against waves of increasingly hard Talon troopers and bosses, anyone? I'd play that. I think a lot of people would. New features. Now, I mentioned role queue and clans in passing in the previous section because I want to talk about them here more in depth. I think before Overwatch Vanilla is done, both of those features make it into the game, as well as proper demo functionality. Role queue has been talked about to death, and I understand any possible viewer fatigue concerning it, but it's very hard for me to imagine Overwatch's future without it. When it does arrive, it might be a bit piecemeal, as in, not the finished version right away. I understand that it's a complex thing to get right, but for the sequel or expansion, which could still be years away, no, I almost demand it on principle. What I expect to happen is that it starts out as a separate queue of its own in this game before taking over as the go-to way people play. If that's the case, then Overwatch 2 has to start at the point that this game leaves off in terms of lessons learned. Don't Destiny 2 us, Blizzard. If we get role queue before the follow-up, then it should be the first feature on the docket for any new release, and the same goes for clans and clan matches. I don't think it's unfair to say that those are day one features I think a lot of players expect. Additionally, for any expansion, I would love to see a hero draft mode as well. Reason being, by the time any follow-up comes out, the hero roster could be upwards of 50 different characters. That's a lot to manage. Read the power creep section from earlier. But most of the balance issues caused by a monstrous roster could be solved by having a mode where each team takes it in turns to pick or draft their lineup. In other games, this sort of thing is done either one at a time, alternating between the teams, or by a step system whereby one team gets the first pick, then the next gets two, etc. The heroes picked would then be locked to that team. Their opponents couldn't use them. Now, a lot of people might react sharply to that, as they don't like the idea of not being able to play their main for any reason, even if they're not suited to a map or a mode, but let me explain why it could be great. Cheese comps like GOATs would never be possible. As soon as your opponents took a Brigitte, for example, you could snap Ryan and Zarya away from them, or some other vital component like Lucio. Also, with a much bigger roster to choose from, so many more options would be available and every match would be different. Metas that last for months at a time would cease to exist in the way we currently understand them. No more boring mirrors of triple tank, triple support. What I'm not saying is that I want this to be the de facto mode. I just want it to be available to try. In my opinion, that's what the PTR always should have been. But for the sequel, a sort of new ideas queue where modes like this are trialed would work much better. It would certainly gain more actual data for Blizzard than a server most people hardly use and console players have no access to anyway. And finally, clans and clan matches have to be a thing for the expansion. Having a giant friends list means nothing if we don't use them to group up and play each other for some sort of reward besides SR. Here's something we've never said before. What about clan leagues, like back in the old school days of competitive gaming? I'd love to have a Your Overwatch clan with loads of sick players and fans in it and have regular league matches to play against a multitude of others from around the world each week. That would honestly be sick, and I'd probably play it more than ranked. Something to care about and be involved in. Please, Jeff, I want all of these things. I'm not greedy, I promise. That's just about everything that I could think of, guys. As I said at the beginning, have fun letting me know in the comments anything I missed out or any original ideas you guys have that you'd like to see in an Overwatch follow-up. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,